Good morning to us and evening to you, Kazi. Hope you're doing okay and keeping safe. We welcome you to the very first PanACea conference 2021, and we are very excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Nice. Okay, first things first, okay? We may have we may have people in the room who are yet to find out about the details of the movie. So do you wanna share with us a quick storyline or maybe give us a brief idea about the characters and the stories from the movie?
Well, okay. It's called Dear Luke, Love Me. And it's going to be the first movie in Hollywood that has asexual characters. And they're going to mention that they're asexual, which is a big deal. Uh, think of it as a retelling or reimagining of When Harry Met Sally, but with asexual characters. It's kind of a big deal to see in today's world for people like us to finally relate to characters on screen. And I think that's what makes this thing most important. This film's so important and so essential for us to see. We have Penny and Luke as the main characters, and without giving away much of the story, because I can't give you all spoilers, uh, we just see them through their lives from college to their 30s. We watch them become best friends, they fall in love, and they just explore their relationship. They find out whether it's a queer platonic relationship, an altruist relationship, and they just kind of explore where they are and who they are as ace people. So yeah.
I actually completely agree with you on that part because I was so overjoyed when I found out about Dear Luke Love Me. I religiously Googled everything that was available in terms of information, and it made me so happy that finally some sort of legit representation is happening in a movie. So I also how was it for you? What was your reaction when you found out that you are going to be a part of this movie in some way? Were you seeking this opportunity or did it just land on you? What was your experience like?
That's actually a funny story. I actually labeled myself ace about June this year, and it's kind of late for me to figure out, I thought. But I think the next thing I went to do once I realized that, hey, you know what, I'm ace and this is who I am. I went onto Instagram and I found a bunch of meme pages because I thought that's the best way to find the community and find other people and things that make me feel normal about being ace because it was still a new identity. And within a day or two, I stumbled across the website for Dear Luke Love Me. I was like, I messaged the website because on the contact us page, and I assumed, hey, you know what? I don't know what are the chances. But the fact that there's a film being made about asexuality, I was like, hey, this is something that I could really connect with as a filmmaker, as someone who's coming up and wants to be a DP. I was like, this is my chance to do something within the ace community that's me. So I emailed them, and before I knew it, Mally got back to me. Mally is the producer and the main actress who will be playing Penny, and she is amazing. And she got back to me and she was like, "Hey, we want people on our team. Do you want to join?" And I had a call with her, and the next thing I know, I'm part of the core team for this movie, and I was so excited because it was so unexpected. But within one call, I met everyone on the team, and everyone's amazing. I'm so excited for this film to be made.
That is genuinely very heartwarming to hear that you looked for it and it you just it just happened so organically. Sounds wonderful. Can we say that was there any sort of self-discovery that also happened while you were a part of this movie and while this movie is being made?
Yeah, for sure. So we had a Kickstarter campaign for this movie so far, which was from the 17th of August to the 17th of September. There was a month. And throughout that, and even for a month before that, I was constantly on calls with the other core team members, most of which are ACE, not everyone, but a large amount of the people are ACE that are working this film, at least from the core team perspective. And I really got along with all of them, and it was nice to learn from them, their journeys, their stories, talking to them, finding out how they got to here. It helped me figure out more about myself and new labels, new things that I had no clue about, which maybe were taking me forever to find out just reading stuff online. Like there's people from all over the world as well who are backing this. So I learned a lot more from different perspectives all over the world.
That's absolutely right. And yes, the movie has got like a lot of fans because like the entire asexual community is literally like pushing everything that they have in this movie, which also reminds like brings me to, of course, now speak about the movie. The introduction says that the movie is not about asexuality. It's about two asexual characters. So it's super interesting to hear that. But like, do you want to elaborate on that at that point?
Yeah, of course. So we say it's not about asexuality because we're not preaching asexuality. It's not like, hey, this is what asexuality is. We're not giving you, it's not an informative movie in those terms. But there will be, we say it's about asexual characters because we want people to relate to it. We want the non-ace community to relate to this film as well. And that's what's core about this film, that it's not necessarily only targeted at ace people. Everyone will find a bit of themselves in these two characters or the other characters in this film, which is why we say it's not about asexuality. It's a movie, it's a normal film about a relationship which just happens to involve two asexual characters.
And the movie also explores the altruist relationships. So
I do
I
not want to get more into that without spoilers.
okay, just tell us what is your understanding of altruist relationships then? Like, what do you mean by that? What do you understand?
That's still something I'm exploring for myself, my own understanding of it. But I really think that's a very interesting concept because every relationship at this point in this amatonormative world, we somehow define whether it's sexual or romantic, and those seem to be the only two, and they almost always go hand in hand from the way I've seen the world. But we need to realize that there's somewhere something in between. There's not always just romantic or sexual. There's always also platonic relationships. We have a queer platonic relationships. So finding something that's not necessarily platonic, but and not necessarily romantic or sexual, somewhere in between, like what works for you and me or anyone else in this community. That kind of could be, I think, termed as altruist.
That's very interesting. And it also leaves room for a lot of other things as well. That's between romantic and sexual and then platonic as well. So I think that sounds fair. Yeah. Since this movie, and since you also pointed it out that most of the team members are from ACE community, and the movie is also about ACE representation. So I wanted to know while you guys were making this movie and while it's being made, was there any sort of community outreach that happened in the background? Like, did you guys meet any ACE people? Or was there any conversation that took place between them, and then it gets does that get also like does that also build up? Does that also get built up in the movie, in the
In terms of the
storyline?
story,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, I can't answer that for you right now.
But
You'll
then
have to
was
watch.
there?
I haven't. I have read a part of the story. I haven't finished the entire script, and it's not made yet. Like we're going to be going to shoot this film in March and April, so
Mhm.
it's not even made yet. We still have a lot of way to go before we actually shoot this film. So,
But the community outreach has happened. Like there have been like team members have talked to other ACE people.
oh, in real life, yeah. I mean, of course, the writer herself is Ace, and she found out that she was Ace fluff because she wrote this film.
Do you
So,
want to talk about
and
that?
which
That sounds very interesting.
okay, well, yeah. So Mally, well, she went through this long relationship of hers, and she said that it wasn't particularly romantic or sexual, and she wasn't sure. She didn't. It wasn't like a normal relationship. And she's been in theater for a long time. She's an actress, so she's a writer. She's a fantastic writer. So she wrote this movie, and she didn't at the time. She hadn't labeled herself as ace because she wasn't aware of it. I'm pretty sure. And at the end, after she wrote it, she took it to her DP, and her DP is Ace, Rennie Wilson, a fantastic director of photography. So she took it a deep to Rini, and Rini was like, "This is a perfect representation of a queer platonic relationship." And that opened Mally's eyes, and she realized, and that's when she discovered this whole world of asexuality and queer platonic relationships. And she kind of tweaked this script a bit to make sure that it is meant for the ace community. And that's how we got it. We're here now.
That sounds amazing. Like, imagine you writing down a script and then not realizing what it is about, and it just happening so organically. Like everything
Mhm.
about this movie that you have said so far, it just sounds so authentic and so organic. Like there's no, like it's just so effortless, and I think that's what makes it more beautiful.
Mhm.
So it's just great. Yeah, that's amazing. Uh, Kazi, you come from South Asia, right? Uh, do you have any opinions on what do you think of the ace representations from a South Asian perspective or from an Asian perspective? Rather, have you come across any of the representation like that? Do you have any favorites? Tell us all about it.
In terms of representation in South Asia, I wasn't even aware of asexuality when I was living in Mumbai, India. I had no clue this, like, I believe it was a completely wrong perspective of what it actually is. So I don't think there's any representation out there. If there is, I'm yet to find it. I hope someone introduces me to any representation, any asexual characters that we might have. And I really hope that this film can kind of bring, like, find a pathway for us to make it more normal to talk about. Because I think in South Asia and maybe Asia, I can't speak for all of Asia, but from what I know in South Asia, we don't even talk about anything LGBT, anything queer. It's these topics are only just about coming up. So to talk about asexuality, where it's barely yet common in the Western world, not no, normal is a wrong word, but in the Western world, asexuality is a conversation that's just starting. I don't expect it to start in South Asia for a while, which is going to be a problem if it doesn't come up soon. So I think we need to get more filmmakers and more people in the media there talking about it.
And in general as well, right? It's not like
Mhm.
even in the Western world, there's a lot of representation. Like most of the representation that I've seen so far is very white.
Oh, definitely.
So,
Like
like,
I can name like two. At the top of my head, I can name one or two characters. Like I can only think of that character Todd from BoJack Horseman. That's like one character that comes off in my mind, or maybe Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory. So the
yeah,
fact that I can only name one or two characters is really sad.
yeah, that's true. And also, like, both of them are white. So, the relatability is also very low. But it tells us about how representation is so important, right? So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that representation is equally important in media for ace community to get some visibility, and people should be,
Definitely.
yeah. So what do you think about that? What do you think, like,
So
about representation? Yeah.
honestly, representation in general is a very important concept for anyone who's not a straight white male at this point. The fact that, like, you can see changes coming up in the world when we've got more representation for black, let's if you move out of just the LGBT community, just talk about representation. We can see how much change is coming up in the world in terms of black people, in terms of other people of color, Latinos, in general, any kind of, you see representation when it comes to how people in the Saudi, in the Gulf are represented, and you see how it um, reflects on the way they actually treated in real life. So if we don't have asexual characters on screen, people won't know that we exist at some point, which is the way this world sadly works. The media is the way everyone spreads information. The moment you have a normalized asexual character, it becomes normal for people to accept that. And talking about representation even in the West, we just had, I don't know if spoilers for sex education. If anyone's not seen it, skip the next 2 3 seconds of this interview, please. they removed her character, the one asexual character we had, and she's completely gone in the next season. That was wrong for the community. Now, maybe I don't know why the writer made that choice, but it's just tiny, tiny details. For them, it's just okay, fine. It's a character that they just didn't think about. But for the community, it's such a big deal. Everyone was so upset, and I saw that on Discord groups, on Instagram pages, and that's something that, because it feels like a part of us has been erased. That's why we need so much more representation and proper representation, where characters are not just taken away or something goes bad to them because they're not your straight white males.
I think that you made a very important point there. Even like speaking for myself, I also felt the same. I was so looking forward to the latest season of the Sex Education, and I realized that there has been no other mention. Like even within the second season, we see the ace representation and we see it in a proper way. There is a positive inclusion there, which makes us so happy. But then there's also like 5 minutes of that representation. There's nothing more than that about that character at all. Just like if they come, they like the character is being presented, we talk about asexuality, and then we just move on from there. There's nothing else there. But in terms of Todd, when you say, we see how the entire representation and how his sexuality has been explored in such a detailed manner. Like it's given a prompt acknowledgement as a legit orientation, and which makes us so happy, because that's something that the community needs and that's something the community deserves, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, let's hope that there's going to be more. Like, I know as a filmmaker, I'm going to be much more steadfast about having more representation for our community. So let's hope the ripple effect carries on.
Kazi, your filmmaking journey and your identity, do you think there is a link there, or do you think like how has that happened so far? Like tell us about your experience.
I think I am way too nascent in my journey as a filmmaker. I'm still starting out. For me to bring for my identity as an asexual to kind of merge in there. I know it's gonna have a good impact in the future. Like I know my stories that I work on, that I personally write, will be affected by my identity, and in a positive way. Affected is not a negative word. I'll definitely have more characters that more people in a community can relate to. But it's, as of now, it hasn't happened because I'm way too young as a filmmaker to make those stories yet. But I know it's gonna happen.
And what about your self-discovery journey? Do you want to talk about that? Like, how did you find out? Was there an aha moment, like we've talked about in this conference? What do you think? Do you want to share that?
Well, actually, a couple of years ago, I would say I think I had an awareness of just the term asexuality, but I believed it to be the myth that asexual people just don't want to have sex. And that's why I didn't label myself. I didn't relate to it at the time. And it was like a thought for a minute, and then I just forgot about it because I'm like, yeah, that's not me, and I moved on. And that was probably 4 or 5 years ago that I ever thought that. And it never struck me again till one day I was honestly just reading stuff online, because I read a lot of posts on like Tumblr and random blogs. And I came across one more about asexuality, and I was about to scroll past it, but I was like, you know what, let me just read more about this. And as I just read, and I just went on to the next article and found more articles from there, I just kept reading. And the next half an hour or an hour or so, I was at the end of it, I just put down my phone. I was like, damn, that's definitely me. I was like, I never thought I could relate to these posts as much. And I was like, yeah, everything makes sense now. And that feeling for a minute felt like, holy crap. Wow, why didn't I know this all along? Would have saved me so much trouble, so much anxiety. But yeah, and that was how I figured it out. Then it was coming on to romantic orientations, which is, I'm also aero, but that's another topic. So, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come right back to the movie now. Dear Look, Love Me. So of course there's going to be ace representation there, but in terms of the impact of this movie, apart from the ace community being very hyped about their representation, do you think there are other goals that the movie is trying to achieve through this movie? And if yes, then what are they?
Um, well, let's talk about terms of crew. I know that they're really trying to get a lot of women in film, as that's something Penny has definitely mentioned. Mally, she's almost like Penny for me. She definitely mentioned getting a lot of more women in film. We also have one of our lead actors who's a trans man, so we're just getting representation in terms of a lot of ways. It's not just this community; we also have a trans man. Late Ashley, fantastic person. You should definitely look him up. So yeah, and I think just bring having a good film. I think those goals also now translate to a lot of the film perspective. So we just want a good film crew out there, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the Western world within film. So this is not related to the asexual community. It's definitely not for South Asia, but there's a lot of things going on with treating crew right in the Western world right now with the local unions and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that another goal is to just make sure that we have a strong crew, which there's no mistreatment of crew, everything is taken care of, and the crew is well taken care of. And that's another reason why we need all the funds that we've been trying to get so that our crew can be taken well taken care of, and that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Filmmaking is also equally important. That's very, very true. Do
Yeah.
you think it's going to be released? Where do you think it's going to be released, first of all?
That's a tough question to answer. That depends once we get a lot more made, but there's definitely going to be a way that people all over the world can watch it because we don't want to restrict this film for just the Western world to watch. We want everyone to be able to see this, to see the representation, to see the characters, to see the hard work we're all putting in. So there's gonna be a way everyone watches it, for sure.
That is great. If it comes on a streaming platform or something, then that would be great, right? Do you guys have any release date in mind as to when would you like for it to release, or it's still too soon to say?
That's still pretty soon to say, but I would think maybe September 2022, September-ish, November, late 2022, I can say for sure. That's
And
about
when
a
are
year
you?
from now.
Yeah, and when are you going to join the crew?
Oh, that's a tough one to say too because of, well, the pandemic and travel restrictions at this point. So still figuring that out with the producers, with everyone, talking to them on a constant basis. I'm even in touch with the marketing producer who's in Australia right now. So like I said, it's global for sure. But we'll see how that goes. Just hope something works out and I can actually join them in March.
That is just amazing. Okay, so that is from my end. I think I have had I've asked every single question that I had in mind. If Sneha has anything to say, if Pragati wants to hop in and say anything, otherwise, we can ask you, what do you think about this PanACEa conference that we have organized? Do you have any messages for us, or is
Oh
there
my
anything
God.
that we can do for you?
This is amazing, by the way, that y'all have put in the efforts to bring this together and that too for Ace Week. That's so cool. Uh, I'm actually really grateful for y'all for doing this because we really need this as a community. This awareness we totally need. We need more people to come up with their stories, with their experiences, and the fact that y'all have brought that together, made that possible, is heartwarming, and I'm grateful.
No, we are grateful too because through this conference only like we've gotten to like reach out to people like you and reach out to all these amazing experts and panelists who have been a part of this conference in such an intense manner. And through this conference, I think all of us have come together and have had the opportunity to like interact with each other, form another close knit community. back each other up for whatever we have been doing and support each other in whatever little ways we can. So I think it's a great opportunity for us as well. Sneha, do you have anything to say?
I was just remembering Rebecca Go's play. We had Rebecca Go and Alia Alkaf do their showcase their play on Monday this week, and it was a play on asexuality. And it was Rebecca Go said one thing that just stayed with all of us is like we are aces, and if we want something to happen, we have to make it happen. And I think Dear Look Love Me is just that. It's just one way of doing it. And I'm happy that there is ace representation in different forms. It's now in feature film, there is some form in theater making. It's just lovely to see this, and I'm so glad that I got to be part of this. And I actually thank the entire PanACEa team and of course Pragati for having this idea about the conference. It makes me want to be part of the community even more, because the isolation bit is so intense with regard to the ace community, and this just makes it all go away and be part of that close-knit community, as Kata put it. Thank you all.
Well, that's about it. Thank you so, so, so much, Kazi, for giving us your time and for being a part of this conference. We wish you a very happy ACE Awareness Week and all the very, very, very best for the movie. We cannot wait to watch it. Like, it cannot release anymore soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Seriously, it's been amazing.